Shalom from Israel. This is King of Kings Ministries. My name is Daniel Geppert, and I'm here together with Pastor Chad. And we thought it would be a good time to have some questions and answers right here from Jerusalem for you about the current situation here in Israel. The war has been going on for over a month now, and it's been between Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. And Pastor Chad, what is the mood here in Israel and the current situation right now?
I would say, we get a chance to talk with a lot of people, different congregations and ministries all over Israel. And the mood right now is anticipatory. What that means is everybody's on hold, they're on pause. It's almost as if the country can't move forward until we wait and see what's going to happen. There was this first month where a lot of the warfare was in the air. Bombs and rockets, and then you had the terrorists that entered Israel, and then they were pushed back. A lot of losses of life, so that's really traumatized people all over the region. But now that Israel has moved the ground troops into Gaza, it's almost as if we're waiting to see what happens. We're praying for all people involved, but we're waiting to see what happens. And I just don't think, Daniel, that there's a lot of other subject matter being discussed right now in Israel. That's in the marketplace, in your neighborhood. It's the war, it's the safety of everyone, it's the hostages. That's really what we're hearing from all the people and what we're experiencing on the ground. So the mood is really kind of in a pause right now while we see what else happens as the war moves forward.
How is this war affecting the congregations here in Israel?
Pretty dramatically, I would say. On the one hand, you have every congregation has had soldiers, Israeli soldiers, get called up to battle. But in addition to all of the soldiers that have been called up, you have families who have had to flee the country. You've had foreign workers who were called out of the country. Well, we called ourselves a Gideon's army right now. These numbers that we're experiencing are very low in Israel right now. So each congregation has soldiers that have gone. They've had families that have gone. They've had workers that have gone. The numbers are down, and of course that hits the finances pretty hard as well. But on the other hand, has it not brought a tightness or a unity or at least a singular focus to the congregation? So we've all been affected pretty dramatically, but there is a sense of focus right now.
Yeah. So King of Kings has started a war relief fund. How's that going, and what kind of projects and humanitarian aid has come out of that fund?
Well, we want to first say thank you to all of our friends, members, and partners around the world who helped us with the Israel War Relief Fund. And Daniel, you've been on that team with me as we've dispersed those funds and made requests, approvals. And so you can actually help me answer this question. I mean, we went in with hot meals was the first thing, get people out of harm's way, that emergency step one. Get them to hotels, get them to hostels, Airbnbs, wherever it is. And then step two was the step of bringing clothes and dried food goods and shoes, jackets, blankets. It was kind of step two was get them into a stable situation out of the emergency. And then we wanted to go a little bit further with people who were going to be displaced for a long period of time. We know of in Israel right now, hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced. And if you were to look in Gaza, parts of the West Bank and Lebanon, you're going to find even more people displaced. We started to help with generators, refrigerators, washing machines. We started to rebuild broken down and bomb shelters that had to be repaired and cleaned and things like this. And now we're helping with backpacks and these emergency goods. We're helping with extra police officers now, trying to bless them as well, because Israel is on such high alert. We're now trying to find a way to bless not only those in the Israeli population, but even bless our brothers and sisters in the Arab population as well, as we have congregations meet in Arabic and other parts of the region. So the help is widespread. You've been part of it. What did you see in humanitarian aid?
Well, we, as you mentioned, the generators, food, groceries, we've been partnering with different communities and their coordinators and just always did a temperature check. What do they need? What's going on? How's everyone feeling? Because each stage, you went through the different stages too, each stage requires different help, immediate and then longer term. So groceries is kind of an ongoing, but even as simple as underwear, socks, shirts. Just this week, we were able to provide like a unit that is on the ground in Gaza, 20 helmets. So I get the question often, why is the army not prepared? Why are the soldiers struggling with all this? And this is just a reminder that all of a sudden there were another 300,000 and more soldiers being called in. And I think that's kind of the challenge.
I was talking to one manufacturer in trying to help people, especially soldiers on the ground, with their supplies. Why did Israel not have enough supplies for its army? Well, you mentioned bringing up all of the reserves, or a good number of those reserves. But also, I want our audience to remember that the Russia-Ukrainian war had broken out last year, and Israel jumped in to help, and we sent a lot of our army supplies and equipment for our soldiers over to them to help them, leaving us at a deficit in our warehouses. And so that's a little bit of the discrepancy of the numbers, why we didn't have enough.
Yeah. So as tragic as this war is, do you see any good or some good coming out of that war that we can already see?
Well, if I were to look at this from a spiritual perspective, try to find some silver lining in these atrocities and these horrific time of losing people. You know, Israel as a country, we were on the verge of something very dangerous prior to this war. There were 800,000 people protesting the judicial reform. We had a great split in terms of political parties and political views. We had corruption at government levels when it came to the elections and things like that. And for us, what the war did on the national level was it brought a sense of unity, of purpose. Everybody stopped bickering and fighting about those other items. We were able to create the unified temporary war cabinet. Like we mentioned earlier in the congregations, we became laser focused on helping people that were in need. And our prayer times became very, very focused. We've seen that. We've seen the body of Messiah come together in a beautiful way. It's changed the way we relate together. It's something that King of Kings has really wanted to be part of for decades, is being that catalyst for unity.
So we know that this is a battle not only on the ground here in Israel, but it's also, and maybe even more importantly, it's a battle in the heavens. And how has King of Kings been engaging in prayer differently than compared to before the war or since the war began?
Well, I think again, going back to our question about unity and the purpose in the congregation, we've been able to have a weekly kind of national and global connection in prayer, whether it be in person or online and on Zoom. And the reason we've been using the online platforms is because not everybody can travel. We're still in the middle of a war. People can't leave their home sometimes. You're in a bomb shelter part of the day. So we've had to utilize that, the electronic format whenever we could. But even in our prayer houses, the Summit, for instance, had all-day prayer yesterday. It filled the room the entire day. So it's changed people's perspective in their private life, in their congregational life, in their intercessory type prayer. It's also, I believe, it's awakened the prophetic in a lot of our people who had that gifting, but it's been operating at a lower level. I believe that's been sharpened a little bit. And then last week, Daniel, as you know, we were able to be part of a group that called for citywide prayer, and we were able to host it. We had the honor to host it here at King of Kings in Jerusalem, and we hosted 15 to 20 different congregations came together for just worship and intercession that evening for all of the subject matter related to this conflict and the war. So I think in the heavenlies, we've been able to grab that this is where the battle really is. It's, you know, our enemies are not primarily on the ground, right? Lucifer is our enemy. His demonic forces are our enemy. Hamas, Hezbollah, that anti-Semitic spirit that is in the terrorist extreme groups, that's our enemy. Our enemy is not the Arab people. Our enemy is not Palestinian people. Our enemy isn't even Muslims in general. It's this Islamic jihad, that terrorist organizations that have united together against Israel, and we can uncover the plans of the evil one, but only if we fight in the heavenlies. And I think that's what I've been encouraged in from the body of Messiah.
So back to the prophecies or prophetic, many people ask us, what are some of the prophetic implications of this war? And maybe just as a question for you, does King of Kings, do we have an official stance of this?
King of Kings doesn't usually take a particular stance on eschatology or the prophetic meaning of all of these things, but we want to be aware of the signs of the time. And as we see anti-Semitism growing again in the earth, that's a sign. Our neighbors around us gathering together for war against us, that's a sign of the time. But at the same, by the same token, inside of Israel, we haven't really seen the revival break out yet. So that tells us a little bit about where we are also on the timeline. So we take a little bit more of a neutral approach as King of Kings Ministries when it comes to what are the prophetic implications and meanings of this particular war. We don't know. Right now we're praying for everyone's safety, both Jewish and Israeli, both Arab. In the innocent, we want safety and the preservation of life right now.
You mentioned earlier it's not a war against Arabs, Muslims, it's a war against Hamas and all these other groups. How has King of Kings been able, or has King of Kings been able to get in touch with Arab leaders, ministries, and maybe even been able to help and support these different ministries and people maybe on the other side?
Mm-hmm. We've been very blessed over the years to have some amazing Arab leaders in our King of Kings family, even representing congregations and initiatives and outreaches both in Jerusalem and in near the Bethlehem area and other areas as well. We've been part of that. That's deep on our heart because we believe one of the greatest shows of unity, that we love one another, reflects on the fact that we love Yeshua, we follow Him. And so our outreach has not only been to Jews and to Israelis, but as much as we are able and as much as we have contact for, we've had outreach opportunity, humanitarian aid, medical supplies, first aid kits, food bags, things like this for our Arab brothers and sisters as well. Some of them not even necessarily on the Israeli side. Some of them are, let's say, even in Samaria, Judea. Some people would say, they would even call it the West Bank, is a term a lot of people use today. And we just want the people praying with us, walking with us, to understand that we're trying to be a catalyst for unity and a bridge builder. The lives of our Arab brothers are as valuable as the lives of our Jewish brothers.
So we mentioned the war on the ground, we mentioned a spiritual war as well. But we also know there's a war going on, that is the war in the media. How has King of Kings dealt with it so far to this point, and how would you encourage us to deal or even engage with media wisely?
We have to be very careful today. We know that there's a team, if you will, of liberal media who has a narrative. They have an agenda. They want a story that fits their story, their desired outcome. And so we just want to be careful and warn everybody, be careful where you get your media from. Before you run with the story and you forward it and you like it and you start preaching it from your pulpit, make sure that it's been founded in fact and you've been able to check where did it come from and has it been verified. But ultimately where we want to be today is, what is truth? It's a battle for truth. And we just want people to understand the truth, to seek the truth, to verify things. And we implore all of the media around the world, and those in social media, be careful. Make sure you know the facts behind what you're saying.
That's good. Many of you have been praying for us, with us, and we are so grateful for your prayers. We appreciate that so much. And Pastor Chad, just want to ask you, what are some of the major prayer points that you could share with us and update us on?
We need wisdom for our government to tread carefully. On the one hand, every country has the right to defend themselves, absolutely, and there's the biblical mandate for the preservation of life, absolutely. But on the other hand, you want them to make good decisions that would please God, decisions that would be consistent with the scriptures as much as possible. So the prayer for wisdom for the government, then safety for the soldiers, those that are trying to do their best to keep other people safe, to pray for the release of our hostages, that God would preserve them, that He would uncover their location, that they would be returned home safely. And then the fourth prayer I would have would be for those innocent people. The world should know there are innocent people in Israel. There are innocent people in Gaza. There are innocent people in the West Bank and all over this region. There are innocent people that don't agree with Hamas and Hezbollah. They don't agree with the ideology of jihad and these ideals. So let's pray for the innocent, that they don't get caught in the trap between the fire, and that when they are alerted to get out of a dangerous area, that they are allowed to leave that dangerous area.
We mentioned the War Relief Fund earlier and mentioned some of the projects. Again, thank you so much for giving toward that fund, but for those who are curious, how can we find that place to give toward the fund, and how is this all?
We tried to keep it as simple as possible. Go to the King of Kings Network website, which is kkm.network. At the very top of the page, there's a banner. It says Israel War Relief Fund. Click here. That's the easiest way to do it. And from there, you're able to give to the fund. And then we want to continue to be able to give you updates about how that fund is being used. We want to be good stewards. We want to be transparent. But we also want the good news to be shared. Like when people are coming to the Lord in the bomb shelters, or when we're delivering goods and services to families that have been displaced, those people are coming to the Lord. There's been a movement in the kingdom of God because we are becoming the hands and feet of Yeshua on the ground, and we can't do that alone if we don't have our friends and partners. So thank you guys, everyone who's participated and helped us with the Israel War Relief Fund. It's not only bringing comfort and humanitarian aid, it is bringing people to the salvation knowledge of Yeshua, their Messiah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you for standing with Israel. Thank you for all your prayers and your support, your gifts. We appreciate that. And yeah, we want to bless you from Israel, from Jerusalem. God bless you and keep you.